Is everyone in?
Copy.
Cool. All right. So yeah, our goal is to get an early pick so that we can snowball the advantage from that pick before the enemy team can. And how do we do that?
Not by me WM1ing.
Um, Very possibly. Oh, are you on Ryan here?
I am the Rhine for the first several maps
Oh, okay.
until Fortune is able to show.
Okay, cool. So
They me very
the
inconveniently like a good couple of meters in front of everyone else on my team getting frozen and holding down my hammer button.
sure. That's all micro stuff. But macro, how we get a pick when things are so chaotic. Like, you can already tell just looking at this that it's about to be utter chaos, right? Like, basically, like we've mixed together the red and the blue, and are shaking the vial. Our doom is a little bit late, coming out with a punch. I don't expect that to get anything because the red team's already dropped. But we get an opening pick here with target focus. That means that we identify the target on their team who is most out of position in all this chaos, and we focus them down. Um, it means staying together and not scattering across the map so that none of us are in a really disadvantageous position to get picked off. Means playing with your Rhine. But in general, when we know things are going to get chaotic, target focus is paramount. And that means calling a target and everyone else echoing that target call until they're dead. And then we start calling another target and echoing that target call until they're dead. And then calling another target and echoing that target call until they're dead. Um, when things are really chaotic, it's a death sentence for a team to be silent because that means that there isn't focus, or rather, it's very unlikely for there to be focus. Um, anyway, so let's see how this is gonna go. Okay, so watch that in slower. Okay, they get there a little bit faster. Okay, so where's that button? So, um, how is the enemy team positioned relative to each other and their main tanks? You know, we can sort of see their tanks playing close together. Their supports sort of in the middle of this death ball. Their DPS are both shooting at the same target. Um, and now look at what we're doing. Z is up here, possibly looking to try to boop enemies sort of from out into the courtyard. KJ is here trying to punch someone while coming out of TP, but we were a little bit late, unfortunately. Um, Spawn is throwing up turrets. Violet is shooting turrets. And Sun is shooting into this big ol' massive death ball. So we can see sort of the difference already in how this fight's gonna go, right? Like, their entire team is all looking at one target, and our team is looking at uh, turrets, a wall, a teleporter, and the back of a full HP Mei. So this is sort of the situation in which we expect things to be chaotic, and so therefore we have to go into the fight, sort of immediately primed to look for a target rather than being surprised when they're already there. And I think you'll have a lot more success on this rollout once you come into it sort of knowing that you have to hit the ground running, calling a target from the moment you press F. Um, okay, cool. So Kenny gets focused down by their focus fire. Um, they focus down KJ next. They focus down Sun because they're the only one left. And Z hopefully tries to get out. Yeah, Z's out.
The objective is now active.
Okay, so we swap comp here now that we've lost point. This is good. Pharah Mercy is good on this map, and if we want the Pharah Mercy, then we want to swap up the rest of the comp to play around it. I like this. Generally, if we're going to swap comps, you want to do it as soon as you need to swap comps, and after the first lost fight is an excellent time, so it doesn't fuck up your ult economy too much. So how do we want to play this map on this comp now? Anyone can speak up.
We poked them out. Justin lied to me. The right alt button didn't work.
Okay, cool. The only thing that is Spawn gonna swap here? He is not. So I would recommend against keeping the Symmetra on this point because sort of even in the neutral, it's very or on all comp, it's very difficult to retake the point as Symmetra, especially against an enemy Symmetra who has strong zone control over these narrow lanes. And I'm sure that Spawn didn't swap because no one told Spawn to swap, and they're trying out.
I
So
wasn't sure what to have him swap to, and like in the moment, I only gave the 5 people that we had to swap. I couldn't think of what the Hitskin swap to. I think he swapped to Soldier at some point, and that worked out okay.
Yeah, that's a good pick. But yep. So poking them out is correct. We want to have our DPS on angles. There are a couple of different angles. Sort of, even though there are so few sort of tight oppressive lanes onto this point, or rather the lanes onto this point are very tight and oppressive, but there are quite a few of them. So we want to ensure that we're set up to have damage coming from lots of angles so they don't know who to focus on. And we want to make sure that whoever they do decide to focus on and try to rush down is able to get away. Soldier with their mobility, or Soldier with his mobility, Pharah with her, flight, Ball with his mobility, are all really strong contenders to be taking off angles. Your Zen wants to also be applying pressure, but typically from somewhere where it's very safe and they'd have to cross a long distance to get to your Zen because Zen does not have mobility. So typically that'll mean like Zen spamming point from this sightline here, or this sightline here is a little more sketchy because it's closer, but they can there's better cover. Yeah, so you want to set up to give time for maybe your Pharah to be playing from courtyard or something to spam in from these windows. Maybe your Soldier goes for a sneaky flank along coast to here to make them turn around. Ideally, the absolute ideal of how you would like this fight to go is for the enemy team to be really indecisive, not know which target to go on top of, and just getting absolutely whittled down by spam damage from afar that they can't do anything about because they're all relatively close range heroes with a couple of exceptions. The worst case for playing into this comp is you just, press W onto point, Ball pile drivers into the middle of them, and then dies, and then everyone else gets sort of forced to retreat or rush down because they're playing too close. So let's see how it goes. Okay, we're spamming this Rhine, we're focusing this Rhine, Rhine's taking a lot of damage, we like it. Okay. We engage here, we don't successfully pick the Rhine because they do a lot of peel for him, they speed him back, and now they're ensconced, or, they're back turtling on point. But in the process, they've given us control of courtyard, which is really important. For a comp like this, so for any comp, map control is super important. What map control means for our purposes is the parts of the map where it would be very dangerous for the enemy team to push into, or would be very costly. We have our Sim and our Pharah here in this courtyard. We have Diva ready to peel for the Zen, who will also be spamming damage. If they pushed out into courtyard right now, they would either die or take a ton of damage because Ball would boop them back, Pharah would spam them, etc., etc. They, however, have control over point right now. which means that if we go onto point at present state, it would be very dangerous for us, and we'd be unlikely to get anything done because of how strong their close range damage is and how durable their tanks are. So what should we do at this point, now that we've got control over Courtyard?
Spam! Poke at them. Hurt them.
Make sure we have a bunch of angles so they can't block in all directions. Like, we have control of all the space around point, so we should be taking off angles to.
We will use resources, and they will use more resources, and then once they're out of resources, we go in for the kill.
Exactly. So maybe KJ, you probably want to play sort of around building here, using this window for cover, and then, maybe go for a cheeky off angle towards coast. If you're not getting a lot of success, you could play from these windows also, if you have good fuel management, without getting picked and rushed down. Ball, you could take another, or your ball could take another off angle off coast here with his grapple to survive if he gets booped, and to run away if he gets chased. And your sim can sort of just spam balls down mid, while staying close to your Zen, who's also spamming balls down mid, maybe even from a different door. The name of the game is Angles. Overwatch is all about, or fundamentally, heroes aside, like maps aside, Overwatch is a game about angles and about timing. You want to have the correct angles on your opponent from wherever you're playing, and you want to have the correct timing, which means generally doing the correct thing at the same time. So as long as you guys are doing things at the same time, you'll get a lot more effect. So let's see how we go in this next fight. All right, our ball goes in.
Big turret energy.
Yeah,
Big greedy rolling.
okay, Ryan. Okay, so we get cleaned up. Our Zen retreats are... Alright, so let's see here. Ball goes in. Our D.Va chases to try to help our ball. Sim goes in. Mercy gets shattered. Unlucky.
No, that was on me, because I saw D.Va going in, I'm like, oh, she's gonna need healing, and I should have just not.
Right. Generally, you want to play... So D.Va is fine in this comp, but when you have a healing comp like Mercy Zen, or Mercy Brig, or Brig Zen, or whatever, you have the right instinct here that when you're playing in this kind of comp, Mercy is not a pocket healer. Like, if you have Mercy Ana or Mercy Bap or something, you can be reasonably confident that, your Bap or your Ana or your Moira or what have you can handle healing the tanks while you pocket whoever's doing things and needs the most support, like the DPS. But in a comp like this, healing the you're going to have to do more healing of tanks because Zen can't handle them on his own. But the reason why I tend to like Sig more than D.Va in comps like this is that the name of the game is that you want to avoid taking damage as much as possible. That's kind of a forehead statement. Just don't take damage, right? That's true in any comp. But for low healing comps like this, you rely on the enemy taking a butt ton of damage without being able to do a lot of damage to you because you don't have the heals to sustain a long fight. And Sigma is better able to avoid taking damage than D.Va is with, his ability to spam, like, a ton of damage from mid-range distances, his 2 defensive abilities, his Gravitic Grasp, I think it's called, and his shield, and his ability to sort of dance around cover makes him a lot more able to play and contribute while not taking any damage. Whereas D.Va, she has her micro missiles and she has her pellet damage, and her only real defensive ability is to use Matrix, which is a much more limited resource.
I would ask, would it have made more sense instead of for me to play ball here, to have gone Hog Sig, which is more of a lane comp because it felt like we were trying to do pokey DPS, but had divey tanks.
You could do that. I don't know about making, more sense or less sense. It would be a different way of playing the comp. So like this composition is fine, but you have to play it differently based on what heroes you have in play. So you have a Tracer now, which is fine. But so the way you play ball here is not to sort of dive the enemy team. All right, so I don't want derail too much about this because I've been paused for a while, but there's sort of the three D's of playing ball are you can as ball dive, you can duel, and you can disrupt. And playing into a comp like this on a map like this, can't really dive. That's not the correct move to make. You can't really duel anyone because they're going to be stacked in a big old death ball rather than having their Ana sort of on the back line, isolated in the back line. But you can disrupt them. And you do that by, maybe while your core is playing safely from courtyard, you're over here shooting at their back to make them turn and look at you. And while they're turned and look at you, maybe Orisa throws her shield, Ryan turns his shield, your Pharah is launching in rockets from here, and your soldier is over here getting off pot shots so that they just don't know which way to look. Ball does an amount of damage that's non-negligible with his guns. You can also sort of just take a real quick, safe roll through from here, like, grapple this pillar, roll straight through them to move them out of position, and use your shields to live, come out this other side, and hopefully don't get booped because you've got your grapple still on the inside here. Just got to be careful with it with the ball nerf that was in the last patch. But doing that, maybe you boop their Orisa or their Baptiste out from the Orisa shield, and that opens them up for a rocket from KJ up here to knock them into the Shadow Realm, whereas they'd be shooting shields if you hadn't rolled through. But yeah, so you play ball differently in this situation, but that's not necessarily worse. It's all about sort of the way the whole team wants to play. Anyway, sorry, that was a longer rant than I wanted, or that I meant to, but we're moving into next fight here. We've moved over to the Tracer. They're pushed up a little bit, trying to get off damage, build up some ults, deny some space. We push them back by going out on a flank. I like this. All right, we're sending our ball around. Okay. So, our ball is rolling through. Are we ready for an engagement to capitalize on ball's disruption right now?
No, and this is my fault because I didn't call when I was going to disrupt this first time. I think after the first one, I realized that I was just rolling through and people weren't there and started to calm better, but this first one was definitely on me. I was just like, okay, I'm ready, so we're going now.
Yeah. It's also sort of the kind of, like, it's not just on you. Like, this kind of thing is a whole team issue, right? Like, at any point, anyone could have said, okay, like, we're going to set up now. Ball, let us know when you're in position. Bara, let us know you're in position. Z could have said that. Violet could have said that. KJ could have said that. Anyone can make a plan or suggest a plan, and that starts to get the hamster wheels moving for everyone else that, okay, I should figure out what I can do to play into this plan. But if there is no plan, if no one says, okay, here's the way we play this, then people are gonna do what they think is best, and sometimes that won't lead to the win con coming about. And especially since, like, you guys are not the Shanghai Dragons, like, you have not been playing with each other for an entire year with, like, world-class coaches, like, drilling how to approach this map into you, like, for 5 hours a day. Like, it's important to talk about what you want to do, because otherwise, you guys aren't in each other's heads. And it's important sort of not to blame each other for when we do make mistakes, especially when they come out of sort of whole team issues, like just not making a plan. It's also sort of, not anyone's position, or it's not anyone's like remit to like have the exclusive responsibility of making those plans. Violet tracks alts for you guys often, but that doesn't mean that Violet has the sole responsibility of planning which alts you're going to use, or anything like that. You can also help Violet track alts by keeping track of the alts of your counterparts. So I would like to emphasize, I just want to emphasize that it's a whole team effort to play together. That's all. But so we're about to, we've got a beeping going off in our ears that's maddening, so I'll unpause soon. But let's say that we were in position. What would look different about this picture if we were ready to capitalize on this ball's disruption?
Our tracer would be in with our ball, and our Pharah would be at a slightly better angle for more poke, and preferably we'd have a Discord target that we're going in on as well.
Okay, cool. Where would that better place for the Pharah be?
In a window.
Yep, from here would be good. Why is this a good position for the Pharah to be playing from? Better than this
because
position?
walls are your BFF, and they're my BFF too.
Yes. Yeah, immediate cover and less travel time for the rockets, so they're easier to aim.
Exactly. Okay, and where would we want our tracer to be, particularly?
She looks like she's going opposite coast, which seems fine because she's
Yeah,
gonna.
in that other doorway.
Yep. So from here would be a good place for Tracer to be. She could sort of go for a one clip on this May or this Lucio when they get booped closer towards the door. She could also be here and try to capitalize by getting a clip on this Sim in the middle of the chaos. So I asked that even though the Tracer player isn't in chat, because it's important for everyone else to recognize sort of visually by seeing their teammates' silhouettes, sort of by their body language, whether they're ready or not. It's important to ask, but it's also important to sort of look so that you can immediately notice, oh, they're not where they should be. We're definitely not ready. I'll wait a second. Also turn on allied silhouettes. It's good. Okay, cool. So we'll see how this goes. We do a roll through. Okay, so where's our... Alright, so we are in now. Our tracer is closer to being here. Our ball is doing ball things on top of them, but they have windowed, which means, our Zen is not going to want to peek, so he'll want to either rotate to this door here, or sort of, just try to spam orbs around, 5 orbs around the corner. Our Pharah and our Mercy don't necessarily care because they can play up here out of LOS of the window. Our Tracer probably doesn't care unless they walk in front of window and turn around to shoot at her, which is unlikely. Our ball is getting turreted. That's ball life. Let's see how this rolls out. Okay, we minefield. Diva's at a mech. Bar is on an angle again. We're ulting. Nice. Okay, I'm not gonna dwell too much on.
No, you
Sort
should
of.
have left. Look, we win!
Oh, okay. Yeah. What I was gonna say that I'm not going to dwell too much on the actual way that fight went down, because at this point, when everything's so chaotic, you guys just sort of out mechanic and out chaos them, which is really great. And that's the sort of setup that this comp thrives on. You know, setting up a lot of 1v1s and creating a lot of chaos, but the like actual mechanics of mid-fight are sort of more micro than I want to focus on for this VOD review. I want to focus on the macro. Okay, so except for there, we want, you know, once we have control, we want Z and our squishier members to rotate back to cover instead of being in the middle of courtyard. Cool, we take back point.
How do we hold point with this comp? Like, this comp is all about lane, so, like, we don't want to stay on point. So do we want to play, like, in courtyard and stuff?
Good question. It's just about to ask it. You tell me. How should you? You know how this comp wants to play, with spam damage from safe positions, before the enemy has time to get onto you. Where do we play from? Or let's start with an easier question. Where do we put our Zen? If we want to accomplish
That's what I'm
that.
trying to figure out. Somewhere where he has a long sight line, but I'm not sure, like, if he just vibes on point and looks, but I don't know.
Okay. So let's say that. Okay. Yeah. So, what does their team want to do? How do they want to play this retake?
Speed onto our poor Zenyatta and kill him.
Yep. Specifically, they want to. So, what was it about their defense that made it so hard for you to take? About sort of where they had map control.
They're bunkered with that Orisa in the comp, and when they had this sim, it was very bunkery, so like walking into the point was kind of like a little death trap.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they want to use their Lucio to speed to point, set up map control again on the objective, and make it very, very oppressive for the enemy to exist on point. So where do we not want our squishy Zenyatta to be posted up for this defense?
The point.
Exactly. And this is, you know, a hard thing to, you know, think, or this is a hard prospect, right? Because played ideally, you're right, you want to be getting at the enemy team before they're able to get to courtyard and bunker, or get to the point and bunker up, which means probably playing on courtyard, spamming them sort of mercilessly as they try to come out of this door. Use ball slam as it looks like your ball wants to go in to sort of disrupt them as they're coming out this door. Slam them in the air. Farah gets some rockets on them as soon as they come out of choke, or as soon as they drop out of this rotation. Maybe even hide up here so that you can get this slam, though that's kind of sketchy because they come up this way sometimes. It'll give important scouting, however. But yes, you want to fight in courtyard, and you do not want to have anyone on point. If they do rush to point, you have sort of two viable choices. You can either have your tracer in for a little bit, contesting point, trying to play, you know, around this cover, and then, you know, blink through, like blink here, and then back up around this cover, and then blink back on, and, you know, try to stall for a little bit while the rest of your team tries to get value. Or alternatively, you could just not even try to contest point at all. Like, you go in all or nothing on, you know, not all or nothing, but, you know, you rely on fighting them up here, and then if they do manage to make it to point, you do what's called flip the map. You play as if you're attacking instead of defending, and just let them have it, because if you try to contest them on point, then you're very, very likely to lose unless you've extracted a lot of resources from them before they get on you. Does that make sense?
Hi, sir.
Okay, yep. But so it looks like Kenny has the right idea here. He wants to go for a grapple slam on them as they're coming out of this choke. Their team is super split, so this is a really good time to capitalize on their staggering. unfortunately, we're not yet set up for
We're
this
ready.
because the fight just ended. So cleanup took a little long. Maybe no one gave the call to move out to courtyard, so people just sort of default to standing on point. Our Zenyatta is standing on point, so if they rush, if they get their shit together in the next 5 seconds and rush down our Zen, then he has no choice but to, retreat back here or something, or else he'll just get run over. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, we don't engage. They're running charges. It looks like, they're regrouped. They're all together. They're reforming their death ball. Okay, so your ball is going for a hard engage here onto this Cass. He still has flashbang maybe, and he's got, some of his team to peel for him. His D.Va and his Mei and his Rein are looking forward at your D.Va, but he maybe gets some help from, his BAP healing him, or D.Va tries to fly over and matrix him, or Lucio tries to, boop your ball into somewhere dangerous. Who can help your ball with this engage?
Maybe Zen can throw an orb of thoughts and prayers? Maybe the pharmacy can peek out through the window?
Right. But suppose you were set up to fight in the courtyard. Maybe you had your Pharah up around tower here, peeking at their doorway, or, playing around here or something. I don't know where the best spots for Pharah Mercy to play here are on this map. Maybe even here. You'd have a much higher chance of being able to help your ball, right?
Yeah, and ideally every time ball engages, Tracer would be in the position to help. Our tempo a little out of step, that's okay.
Yeah, and that just comes back to making sure that everyone's clear on what the plan is, and, we talk about what the plan is rather than assume everyone knows what it is, especially sort of for a team as newly formed as you guys are, in terms of your present composition. And anyone can ask that question. What's our plan this round? That can be answered with alts. We want to get into a position for a big bomb, and that leads to the next question of how do we want to set up for this bomb? Do we want to, bomb while they're in courtyard, and so we make a lot of disruption for that? Do we want to set up somewhere else? So make a plan, and then every individual person can figure out how best they can support that plan and where they should be to support that plan. We don't need to micromanage each other. We just need to make sure that we're clear on what the plan is. And then everyone else can use their brain to figure out the best way they can contribute to the plan. Anyway, so Ryan walks onto point. You used mech to get a new mech. Our ball doesn't hard engage. I like that. Pharah's playing sort of on point. Zen moves to cover. Okay, so at this point, we've been forced off point very effectively, right? They've only gotten one kill, but just sort of through the sheer map control and, exuded by their death ball, like, we cannot stay on point. We have to cede it to them. And now we'll look at the position that puts us in. Our Zen has backed off here to a really dangerous isolated spot on coast. Our D.Va and our Mercy are in not a great spot either and very low health. Our Tracer and our Ball have been forced off. So we started playing on point to wait for this defense, and they pushed in, and sort of that exact same outcome that I mentioned from the plan of just giving up point entirely has come to pass, right? Like, we're not on point at all. So if we were set up off of point when they made their push in the first place, not only would there be no difference in terms of, whether we're on the point or we aren't the point, but we would be in a much stronger position to actually retake the point if we had set up off of it in the first place. We're still contesting, bleeding out the clock. And we all die. So normally here's the part where we would say, if we're trying to bleed out as much time as possible and give time for everyone else to regroup, we would say, who's touching next, like who's got the touch, I'll touch, I'll touch, I'll touch, I can't touch anymore, and then someone else pick it up from there. But that's a really small thing that I don't want you to waste brain bolts on caring about.
Score 0-1. Ready for battle.
Okay. Night. Oh, sorry. Need to drink some tea. I talk too much. Anyway, so we're here on Gardens. Let's see what we roll out on. It looks like, yep, 6-man. Okay.
I cry for not getting to play ball on bridge.
Yeah, it's a fun one, but it's also rough since the boop distance nerf. It's also rough if they don't go bridge at all, as it looks like they're posturing to not do.
1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
So this rollout... Oh, nope, they're off the Symmetra. I was gonna say, like, we've seen a fair amount of Symmetra rollouts on this map, so it's always something that you have to be ready to think about what you're gonna do if they do that. The default, right, is that they go bridge, or they try to go white room, but we should know, or someone should make a call on what to do if they do teleport point and then start bunkering there. Ignoring their actual comp, what would you do if they, if they were a Reinhardt Brawl comp with a Symmetra and they immediately teleported to point and started bunkering?
Point of 6-man is to like walk on someone out of position, so we'd see where they are and try and rotate around the point onto someone we can get a pick on.
That's definitely an option. You play this like a brawl comp, as you mentioned, so you want to identify a target to get on top of, who's out of possession. The problem with a brawl Symmetra setup is that if they do it correctly, then there's no one out of position. They're all just sort of standing on each other, and there's no one for you to walk on top of. So if you want to go with that game plan, the important thing is to be patient. If the enemy isn't in a state where you can't, like, you don't have tempo in your favor, you can't walk onto them, you got to make sure that, you wait until the point unlocks. Like, you don't have to force point until the point unlocks, so you have 27 seconds to survive and find an opening. Wait for them to make a positioning mistake. Take map control. If you are playing around sort of the central pillar, you're controlling this courtyard, so it's hard for them to push you before point unlocks. And you can also jockey for position to, maybe if you see that their BAP is playing over here, you quick rotate to this side and rush down the BAP, and hopefully everyone kills him. The benefit of, why is 6-man better in some situation, or why does 6-man play differently than, a standard Reinhardt brawl?
I was going to ask you that.
You have escapes, and
Yep,
more
that's true.
mobility.
You have movement abilities, which could bring you out of a fight if you needed to. And what does the converse of that entail?
It's harder for you to occupy space.
So that's also true. If you're playing 6-man and you're playing against a straight Reinhardt brawl, then, your monkey has less frontline staying power than your Reinhardt does, or than their Reinhardt does. But you all also have movement ability. So if I was a, Reinhardt and I'm playing here, they're on point, they've got a Symmetra, they're like chomping at the bit at this window, daring me to like walk into him, and I see over on this side of the point that their BAP is playing sort of out of position. Maybe their BAP is standing here, or their Lucio is standing here or something. If I'm a Reinhardt, I have to walk all the way over here, and then turn around this corner to start swinging my hammer on the map, in which case he's probably, backed around to this side of point, maybe with Lucio's speed boost if they are savvy enough. But if I'm playing Monkey in 6-man, I can just press shift and go from there to here in a second. And their diva can use boosters to go from there to here right in a second. And our Moira can use fade to go from there to fucking the moon after this patch, but also here in a second, and Lucio, etc., etc. So when you're playing Brawl, you want to make quick rotations onto your target. What 6-man allows you to do is to make those rotations in an instant. Now, if their BAP is hiding back, all the way back here, and, playing behind their Reinhardt and no one's making a mistake, then you're going to have to walk into their Reinhardt and play it like a standard Brawl and just rely on focusing your fire. But if someone is making a mistake, if someone is out of position, you can capitalize it much more quickly. But that means that everyone has to be ready to go on that call. And that means that, we should all be in the mindset of, we're looking for an opening, we're looking for an opening, we're looking for an opening. Okay, there's the opening, I'm ready now, because I was expecting it. And what if it doesn't work out?
We cry and try again.
You could do that. What else could you attempt to do?
I mean, depending on how long it takes, you have movement abilities off of cooldown to get out, but if they're fast enough, then you cry.
Yeah, and you cry and then you swap comps is what I was fishing for.
Okay.
Um,
the crying is the important part. It's the
Right.
vital element of
That's what I
Overwatch.
remember.
Right. So you could either swap to match the Brawl comp, you could swap to, you could swap the Monkey for a Reinhardt, you could swap the Moira for a BAP, the Sombra for a Echo or a Hanzo or a Mei or some shit and try to match them. Alternatively, you could swap to a spam comp that relies on just sort of blasting them as they try to turtle on point and rotating away. It's a little harder on this point because it's pretty, exposed. So playing from here's a little sketchy. You could play from, put your Ashe here on this building or something. If you swapped to, an Ashe in the spam comp, play with your double shielded Orisa or your ball from here, etc. Anyway, sorry. I've been ranting about a thing which has not come to pass because they are on a Ball Pharah Mercy comp, and they probably swap the Lucio? No, they don't swap the Lucio. Okay. Okay, so what happened here? Who do we jump on? Did that reset? Wait, hold on. Where'd we go?
I think it definitely
But
did.
yeah, you went far back enough. It's on the other point. Or not. Or too far. I don't know what happened.
Oh, yeah.
We're back at the first map. We gotta fast
Oh, I must
forward.
have clicked on the bar instead of,
Ready for battle.
Okay, yep, we're here now.
Ready for battle.
Okay. Okay, so we got across the bridge. We're getting spammed by their Pharah. How we want to play? So how do we want to play against a Pharah comp as this comp? Can anyone on our team deal directly with the Pharah or the Mercy?
We play in the cover so she can't poke at us.
Okay. Yep, that's true. If we're playing indoors or underneath cover, Pharah can't get her rockets as easily. What else?
We just want to kill the people on the ground before she can do anything.
Right, exactly. We want to play fast before the Pharah can get value. And that means identifying a target and going on them. Who on their team represents the most brawlable target?
What do you mean?
So, when you're playing a brawl comp, you want to, really quickly get onto a target and, kill them down. If you are playing on the enemy team and you're the one they're trying to do, or, you're the person who the enemy brawl is trying to do that to, what do you want to do?
Get away.
Like,
Everyone has mobility on the other team. There's not really a great target to brawl on, but I guess.
yeah, that's what I was getting at. So, if I'm a diva and I see a monkey, a diva, a Moira, a Reaper, teleport, jump, booster fading at me, I'm going to hit shift and I'm going to go this way. And if I'm a tracer and that happens, I'm going to go, blink and go this way. I'm going to grapple out as ball. If I'm Lucio, I'm going to, try to boop away and wall ride away. Whereas, if this weren't a diva but a Sigma, then, he doesn't have mobility. He can't get away. He's got to, rely on peel and stand and fight. So he's a more diveable target than a diva would be. But sort of, as we were getting at, when you guys were playing this comp on the last round, they want to play in a way such that it makes it very difficult for you to aggress on top of them, which means that you can do one of two things. You can either, catch them making a mistake. If you see Diva use her boosters and she's in a vulnerable position, you can call, Diva no boosters, and then we capitalize that and we rush her down and we, punish her for that mistake. Or, alternatively, we can make it so that they have to do something. We could rush point and set up map control here so that now they have to crack open the nut and actually do something because you've taken control of the objective. The objective is the thing that wins you the game, and now it's a problem for them to figure out. And then you have to respond to that by taking intelligent aggression, playing around cover well, focusing on whatever target does go in. But in here is a much better place for you to be on a brawl comp than, out here where anyone who you try to go on top of has all the room in the world to fly off to Shangri-La and be safe. So let's see what happens. So we jump the Diva. Diva kind of fucks up because she doesn't fly away. She just sort of flies back a little bit and then walks back to you. So you kill her. Nice job. Was that a... No, that wasn't a boop of any sort. Maybe that was a violet boop.
I'm not sure, but I
yeah.
think she did. I think she got boosters back.
Yeah.
You can't.
What was that? Okay, our Sombra just loses the duel to the Tracer. Unlucky.
Unbeknownst to me, Spawn was not comfortable on Sombra.
Hmm.
The objective is now
Okay, so let's see what they did here. So, nominally, we're in a pretty comfy position here. We've gotten a lot of damage on their Tracer, or on their Diva, we've forced them back to have control of a strong section of the map, but we're about to get pushed back also. What don't we like about this situation right now?
We're all low. Or half of us are low.
Our
Some of us are
Sombra's
low, yeah. Go ahead.
Our Sombra's spread out from us, and Z's trying to fall back to support her, so we're slowly spreading out when what we really want to do is be a death ball together.
Yep. Ball's just slammed into you, so he's probably the most vulnerable that he'll ever be. So here's where I would like to see a lot more target focus on the ball. So Sombra is going to play on an off angle, probably. That's fine. It's okay for Sombra to not be stacked with your team, but just because you're not So just because you're not stacked doesn't mean you're not prepared to engage on the same target. Where could your Sombra be playing from that would make her able to contribute from the fight and not super split up? I know she got isolated by the Tracer, so she's probably backing up to try to take cover, and that's hard, but she can set up for this, or she can set up sort of before fight in whatever position might be better.
Around that mega, well, maybe not like around the mega, but like in that building, you know?
Yeah, so like here in Pagoda or Dojo or whatever you want to call it, or Mega Hut or whatever. Hut is also something
The
I hear called
Hajiner.
a lot. That's a few too many syllables than I would like, but sure. But yeah, your Sombra could sort of be on an off angle, but still ready to play with the team if she were here. Alternatively, she could just be stacked with you. That's less optimal because she'll take a lot more damage, but would be better than being isolated on bridge. But yeah, so from here, isolated target and going on them is the next pick. Hopefully people are screaming screaming ball, 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 ball at this point, and then ball gets out because that's what ball does. Okay, so they force us out. We're really split from our monkey at this point. So we back up here because we're getting pressured out. That's fine, that happens. They came at you and they dealt a lot of damage. Is this the best place to back up to if we're retreating?
I think Spawn was calling for help, and that's why we were backing up there, rather than like planning on where we. It's bad either way, but that's,
Okay, but so
yeah,
we're getting pushed back, and the call comes to give them space or retreat or back up or what have you. Where should we back up to?
the point.
Yep. So you're down 2, which is never good. But if you back up to point, control is about to unlock, so you can delay them capturing it until a little bit longer. Maybe build up some of your ults if you play around this cover. Sort of, their Pharah has a lot harder time if you're on point than if you're out in the open. From here, she's just going to continue to spam rockets at you, and it'll be real unfortunate. We do move to point, some of us, but we just get rolled out by deaths. Unlucky. Okay, so we've lost point and we're retaking on 6-man. What should our game plan be here?
Death ball their face once we get to point.
Yep, and how do we want to get to point?
With minimal damage from the forest, so I think we try this left side because we've got this room to go through, and then we can speed through parts that are bad.
Yep, White Room, if you're a brawl comp, is definitely the way to rotate, because if you're a split comp like this, or a dive comp, inside of this White Room is definitely the last place that you want to be. This part here is where you'll take the most damage and where you're the most exposed. Okay, so question in case Distortion is watching this. Should you use your bubble to shield your team as Monkey if you're walking out through here? What do you guys think?
My instincts say no, but I couldn't tell you why.
It's fair to listen to your instincts. What is the cooldown on bubble? Do we know?
6 seconds?
15 or something.
Yeah,
Isn't it long?
the
Yeah.
cooldown on jump is like 6. But the cooldown on bubble is much higher. It's like 12. So what is the potential consequence of using bubble
We don't
before a
have it in
fight?
the.
Right. Specifically, the consequence of using an ability that's on cooldown is that you don't have that ability for the next X number of seconds. So if we use bubble to cross here, we won't have bubble for 12 seconds. Is that okay? Is that, a good trade-off for shielding while we cross this expanse and potentially not taking damage?
Probably not.
I was going to say, I think yes, because if Bubble gets you across here, you're in this room. And who is going to be most impeded by Bubble on their team?
The Farah?
Yep, the Farah, because, you can be inside of bubbles, and Farah, despite her mobility, shoots her rockets from relatively the same sort of area. Tracer can, it impedes Tracer, but she can blink through them. She can sort of tickle from different angles that the bubble doesn't cover. But mainly it's the Farah that is going to be impeded by the bubble. And if you're in here, then you have something better than a bubble. You have cover. But so you could, use bubble to rotate in here, wait a couple seconds for bubble to start coming back, and then you move on to point. That does lose you some time, but it does, or more time is going to be lost if someone dies during the rotation. So this is also an instance in which you have a diva. So diva could be looking to eat rockets specifically, and so if you do that, then maybe monkey doesn't need to use bubble. Why is that better to have diva use her DM resource up rather than monkey use his bubble cooldown?
Because Diva's resource comes back quicker.
Right, exactly. So the trade-off is much better if we trust that, the diva can eat Farah rockets. If everyone rotates together, then everyone is together for diva to eat those rockets. And if Farah is really the only source of spam damage that we're expecting, then that might be enough. But if they have, I don't know, like an Ash or something, or a Junkrat, that might not be enough. We might get blown up trying to cross here. So that's a gut check that you guys have to learn to make. Sort of when we're making rotations, how do we ensure that the rotation is safe, and what resources do we need to use to ensure that? Do we need Monkey Bubble here, or is, Diva mating the rockets going to be enough? Because ideally you wouldn't want to use anything, right? Like you just tootle over and they're emoting over on the corner and they don't shoot you at all.
In a perfect world, the enemy just lets me have the point.
Right, exactly. Anyway, sorry. I got off on a tangent there. But you want to go white room. We're rotating here. Our Sombra's in position. We're getting spammed with rockets. We're very, very low because of the aforementioned fire rockets, but we make it in. Are we ready to go right now?
No.
Why not?
We're low and missing cooldowns, maybe. I don't know what the cooldowns are.
Yep, possibly.
Also, our Sombra is behind us rather than.
Yeah, our Sombra's a little bit slow on the rotation. Sort of, I've been harping on playing this like a brawl, playing it fast, but because you have a Sombra is a character who benefits a lot from being set up on off angles. Because if you just play her like, Soldier 76 shooting into shields, she gets some value there, but maybe less value than if she's set up. So you want to be sure that you're everyone on your team is in position to actually go and get value when you go on the target who's out of position. Hopefully we wait a couple seconds to heal. We don't. We get barraged. Our diva eats it. Massive. Unlucky. Let's roll that back a little bit. Ooh, are we at 2 already? Okay, so I think I might have to, unfortunately, skip out on the third map of this, but we'll finish a little bit more of this one up because I've ranted too much. Who are we going on here? Who is the most opportune target for our comp to get on top of?
Not really anyone, but easiest, I think, right now looks like Diva. She's right in front of us. She's mostly alone, besides her Lucio behind her. But I feel like it's almost like a debate, like we're going to jump on the Diva, and then Tracer and Ball are going to descend upon us like a plague.
Yep. So if I were a Ball player and a Pharah player or a Tracer player, in this sort of span between White Room Mega to, this pillar of point, where do I want the enemy team to be when I press my buttons and fully engage?
That little flipper that's not under a roof.
Right, exactly here. Because, if I'm smart, I have broken these railings beforehand, so as my, if I'm a filthy solo cue ball one trick, then I do the funny and I like go through here and I boop someone off. If I'm Bara, I concussion mine someone off, and then just spam rockets at their backline as they're walking through here. Pile driver here. This is the spot that's most exposed because there's no roof over your head, so you're gonna get rained on. So I would recommend that, or so. How can Six Man handle this transition that we know about? We know that Farah and Ball and Tracer want us to be in this little span before they engage. What can we do about it that a normal brawl couldn't?
Disengage.
Yeah,
Just
I mean
move
we
it,
could.
or jump it.
Yep.
Just skip being there.
Right, exactly. Exactly what the word I was going to use. Just skip this section. Reaper TP onto the Diva, Diva booster, monkey jump, Moira fade. Lucio maybe kind of SOL. Like he's gonna have to like, I don't know, maybe build up speed in here and then wall rind and jump in, and hopefully they don't one clip him. But he's got them this far, so yeah. Use your movement abilities to just skip the dangerous parts. So let's see how this goes. Big. A lot of chaos happens. We get split by the Pharah ult, which is unfortunate. But Sun reacts correctly here by eating as much of it as he can. The rest of us are sort of trapped by by them catching us in rotation. This is really good of them. Yeah, and they probably just sort of pick us apart here. Sorry, 1 second. I just need to check Slack to make sure no one has needed me for the past hour before I keep ranting. No one has needed me for the past hour. Cool. Okay, so we're going White Room again. I like this. We're staying relatively close. Our Sombra is a little bit split. So ideally, this is kind of sketchy. Our Diva might get demacked. So where might we want our Sombra to be set up before we even make this rotation?
Behind them.
Behind them where?
In a
I'd
position
say-
where she can scout.
What?
Yep. She could be playing from here. In fact, she could be working to. So, there's options, right? Like she could be here, spamming damage into their backside. She could be here, and waiting to decloak for when it looks like they're going to engage, and then disrupt the engagement by maybe hacking the ball before he can go for a slam, or just being somewhere that's set up where she can jump out at the correct moment and start to get value, as opposed to sort of being inside of you where A, it's a lot more dangerous for her, and B, it's a lot harder for her to get value because she's going to be shooting in a direction from which they know damage is coming, so they'll be playing around cover. D.Va will be DMing this direction, so her SMG will get eaten up. They'll know that she's there if she decloaks, so it'll be hard for her to get a hack because she'll just get hit with pellets. Whereas if she were over here, then it'd be easier for her to get value because they're all looking at you rotating. And I know Spawns said they were not he was not comfortable on Sombra, which is totally fine. That's the sort of thing that you build up awareness for. Yeah, we'll just see how this goes. They mines. Were these alts planned? Does anyone know off the top of their head?
I'm pretty sure the Cole was called to go in with Cole.
Okay.
What else did we use? Blossom. I don't know.
What do we do here?
Probably calmed if I had to venture a guess, because it seems like
so.
we have a tendency to plan 2 ults when we plan. So we probably are like, hey, let's go in with Cole, and then KJ was probably like, I'll use Blossom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. I mean, that's fine. Like, I would rather you. So, if you need an alt to turn the tempo, I would rather you over alt and win the fight than under alt and lose the fight. I think I've said that before. But the important thing is that, we use our alts, sort of, I don't know where I was going. Like, use alts to win fights. The worst is when you use your alts but don't win the fight. Just don't do that, forehead. Anyway, so we're moving on to point here. We lost our D.Va, but we're generally still going in the correct direction. We're all moving. We were all moving this way towards the Lucio. But at some point, we get split off. Why do we get split off? I assume the answer is because we're getting shot at.
I particularly remember getting incredibly frustrated, right? Because I go in, I'm like trying to call a target, and then somebody calls a target over me. I'm like, okay. So I start mimicking that target call. And then the person that just called that target called a different target. They got distracted. So I'm like, okay, fine. Mimic that target call. And we eventually end up on the Lucio.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, at least one other fucking person is shooting at the Lucio with me. So I keep calling Lucio over and over and over, and nobody actually
Yeah.
I hope you kill the Lucio.
It's true. Lucio did go with you to kill the Lucio. Yeah, so...
Well, I said that one person was with me.
Yep. And that was it. So, yeah, it looks like at this point, Sun turns around, probably because, they hear someone behind, or he hears someone behind him, and, looks at them and sees the ball and starts shooting the ball, when really, they should have stayed with they should have stayed with Monkey, because it's important that we play together on this comp so that the people die quickly.
Yeah, I think I have
a bad
habit on Reaper of when I get low, I just start looking for a tank to shoot to get health back. So I get distracted easily, which is not good.
It's a little inefficient, and you should have trust in your supports, especially when that support is Moira and Lucio, because they're relying on everyone being very close together in order to get value.
Yeah, I think we lost the Moira already at that point, so that was part of why it was.
Sure. But yeah, we split here, and it's important to not get split. Like, always know where your monkey is and where your monkey is going in 6-man. Especially if you are the monkey, or if you're the off tank. We should always be playing with the monkey the same way that you would be stacking on Ryan. It's okay to look at someone else, but looking at someone else has a tendency, players have a tendency to tunnel, especially in lower ranks, tunnel vision on whoever catches their fancy. And it's important that, we continue with the plan, especially on a death ball. Anyway, so we lose this fight. We're down to last fight. We get a touch, maybe. We get a touch. Let's just clean up stagger fighting. Oh, we take it. Okay.
Flight routine activated.
And proceed to have this weird ass spread touchy cup.
Yeah.
It was very good.
We went ball for the stall, I'm sure, but that's the point at which so either we swap the whole comp at that point, or whoever swapped to stall normally goes back to spawn to switch. But on control, that's a very dicey proposition because of how far away the spawns are. So by the time that
I
you
remember asking about that
yeah,
right around a few seconds ago,
yeah,
being like, swap the ball to touch. Do I need to swap back? Like, do you want me to roll back, swap if I die, or like, what am I doing?
if it were a map type where you are close to spawn, like assault or, you know, basically any map type except for control, really, then yeah, that would be worth it. If ball doesn't really synergize with the rest of the team, then you should go back and swap. But here, if you know you win the fight and then ball rolls back to spawn and then swaps to Reinhardt or Monkey or something, by the time you get back to spawn, the enemy team will have respawned and be rolling onto your team. So it's not really worth it. Okay, so we'll just roll it. Do we win this next fight?
I think the rest of the map is one fight that goes on for a very, very long time.
Alright. Well, I gotta get back to pretending to do work, so we'll call that the map. Sorry that we only got through 2 maps of one control type, or one control, but
Okay.
hope we learned some, and we didn't look, or I didn't look too much at the tryouts, aside from, you know, the comments we had about their Sombra positioning and the splitting. But in terms of, you know, the tryouts themselves, I'm gonna stop recording. Yeah, feel free to post your thoughts on